He joins us here on Free Speech TV. Reese Peck. Fox Populism was a book that he wrote about, like you just mentioned, a little bit about the Tea Party and Glenn Beck. One of the things that I've always, with the Tea Party and even with Occupy Wall Street, they did not have a leader. They did not have like a central leader, and so it devoided into chaos. Like with Occupy Wall Street, it was a whole bunch of people that were mad at corporations. And then at some point, because they didn't have a leader and their message kind of got all over the place, then it just became, a bunch of homeless people and some college kids sleeping in their tents down at Wall Street. Tea Party was the complete opposite. They had a message, but they didn't have a leader. And because they didn't have a leader, Glenn Beck and the Fox News crew could kind of come in and take that over. Talk to me a little bit about that aspect, because I remember watching the Tea Party. In fact, I went and covered several local Tea Party rallies for local TV that I was involved with. And it was all sorts of people. It was liberals, it was progressives, it was Democrats, it was Republicans, everybody. Everybody from every type of libertarians, everybody was there. And then Glenn Beck and Fox News snuck in nationally. And then all of a sudden the local Tea Party, like for instance, there still is a local Tea Party in a town that I lived in by the name of Salina, Kansas, and they have this Tea Party movement, and they call them, they're a whole bunch of elderly women. They call themselves the Granny Brigade, but realistically, they're all just bitter conservatives. Why in the world did the Tea Party start out and then get held hostage and taken over by old Beckles and the crew?
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated story. You know, the left version of the Tea Party, or I'd say the MSNBC kind of take on it, was that it was AstroTurf. There was nothing organic about it. It was just completely a Koch brothers manufactured movement, and that is a cartoonish and inaccurate assessment of what the Tea Party was. I attended the Koch brother Americans for Prosperity conferences.
I bet those were fun.
Yeah, and they were training, to your point. I remember I was in a room that was like how to use Twitter. This is like 2010. And it was like all these like adorable old ladies with like American flag sequence sweaters on, like learning to be activists and use Twitter. But the other part that's also false, that it was purely organic and it was purely grassroots, that was the Fox News version of it. And in Fox News, the Tea Party Fox News marriage is an unprecedented event in the history of American media. Because up to that point, a national media corporation had never put its arms around a street protest movement. Yes. Usually street protest movements are crushed or delegitimated.
Get them out of here. Yep.
Yeah. The anti-war, there's a famous book called The Whole World is Watching by Todd Gitlin, and he talks about who was a leader of the Students for a Democratic Society, the anti-war protests of the late 60s against the Vietnam War. In his book, he shows how the network news just systematically either ignored the movement or discredited them, right? They'd find the biggest freak hippie to interview and say that's the movement. And then for most Americans, that became their image of the movement in their mind, because all they could see was the media. So I think the Tea Party, I mean, having a national media platform is absolutely essential for any movement to succeed. If it coordinates the message, it keeps the message on track. And I think, I have this clip on my YouTube page where I show the only time MSNBC tried to do what Fox News did was with Ed Schultz, who was the only populist host.
I was a huge Ed Schultz mark. I will have to say, I was a huge Ed Schultz guy back in the day. And
me too.
I hated what they ended up doing to him over there.
Yeah. he was getting ratings that were as good as Rachel Maddow. And Ed Schultz went to the Occupy Wall Street. It's so telling of like left movements and some of their wrong-headed thinking about movements, is that he went to an Occupy Wall Street movement and the crowd booed him because he was part of the corporate media, right? Here you have a guy that could have promoted in a positive way your message, but you booed him, and that was the last time he tried that. Where when he did union protests in Wisconsin, they cheered him because those are older voters, union firefighters, cops, teachers. They understand the older left actually embraced like institutional organization. Like the civil rights movement was extremely organized and hierarchical, where there's this new left fantasy, a romance about like the leaderless movement and it's horizontal and everyone has a voice. That's not how movements really work and are effective. And to kind of like say we don't need a figurehead. Well, yeah, you do. Look how successful.
You do.
Right? Yeah. Like, I mean, it's in the Tea Party, unlike the left, their whole goal from the beginning was capture the Republican Party. Their whole goal, they kept their eye on the prize. Let's take over the government. How do we take over the party and then take over the government? Where Occupy Wall Street was like, we're too cool for party politics. Like, F the Democrats, right? And F having a leader. And it's just like, I see this time and time again, and F mainstream media. And I'm like, well, you do that at your peril. And next thing you know, you've dissolved and you have nothing to show for it. You didn't institutionalize anything. And so that's kind of my take on it, is that I think the Tea Party always had the right posture. I disagree with their policies. I disagree with their ideology and what they did, but I admire and respect their strategy. And I think it was correct.
We have got Reese Peck with us today. He wrote an incredible book, Fox Populism.